business where hobby meets hustle. Listen up.
Like, what if my grandma's listening?
Shouts out Corey and Tim. Man, who run this? Surely it's them.
Welcome back, Slab Business episode whatever. Who cares? This is the most important episode to date. Because the Nationals a week away, not to do with any guests.
Not because Dappz is on the show.
You literally have like a picture of your face behind you, and you don't need any more tire pumping. Like you're at 99 psi, and they pop at 100.
Yeah, but Tim has an incredible jersey
So I got to deal with both of you.
On it,
This guy's literally getting a painting done of him at the National, like Kramer.
You know, Andy Freeman's painting a portrait of me at 2 p.m. on Thursday.
I hope Corey.
I will be there to kick over the easel.
That's what I hope.
Yep.
Yeah, if Corey, the closer Corey could be to that portrait, the happier.
Well, I just have to say, so you two are possibly the worst people to be at shows with on my end, because it's all about you two. It's all walking around like, oh, here's my big dumb hat. Oh, we're doing a skit with TikTokers. Like, you guys have taken and you know, more power to you both.
You know you're feeding us right now.
I know.
You know you're feeding
it's
guys like us, right?
I get it.
Like, yeah, thank you.
But so, from where you started in the hobby, which I've known you 3 years now almost.
I think where we started in the hobby was us three sharing a table at the Dallas Card Show. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Rob, you remember the next show when you guys had the idea? You're like, oh, and then you guys all of a sudden you got couches and everything. You still have those couches?
Yeah,
No,
we had.
We
I think
like 3 different.
Yeah,
sets
I would
of
say
couches.
we've probably bought from Target 7 total sets of those fold-up couches.
Yeah.
Time out, because I don't mean to interrupt anybody here, but I just realized, if you know, Dappz, you're going to know what I'm saying. You said, like, essentially we're a burden. Corey, I've never had to, like, go to Home Depot 3 times a day at a 3-day show.
I don't make any of you guys go.
You're tough to be
I'm
around.
not around.
Tim doesn't make you wear the hat. I don't make you, dance in the TikTok videos.
Right.
So, it works both ways.
This is.
That's a good point. I wasn't. You took it to another level, and that's what Dappz does.
So, kind of give us a like where you started, like, because when you were first doing it, I mean, the first time I was ever in LA, even just ever, was I came out, stayed at your place, and you were literally still breaking out of your house. I mean, a pretty big, I would say probably 6-7 figure revenue a year company, just out of your room, right? So at what point did you think, okay, I need to figure out how to scale? And then what was your first step in scaling?
Are you intentionally leaving the part where you saw a goat being walked by a human being on a leash
pretty cool.
in LA?
Yeah,
or...
that was my first trip in LA.
How have I never heard that story? We would have talked about that off air.
For anyone listening, before I answer these questions, the first time Corey was here, and he already has an opinion of Los Angeles, California before he even gets here, we drive down the block, and there's someone walking a goat on a leash, like in the middle of the street. And I swear, I've maybe seen that once or twice since I moved here 7 years ago. But of course, the one time I see it,
not only is
Corey's
this dude walking a goat, the goat is like eating, like, these stores have like nice like flower boxes set up. This goat is just eating all their flowers, and shitting down the way also. That's just LA
like
in a nutshell.
Typical LA. There's also like a pig, a blue. They spray painted it blue. Like, that's down the block from me as well. So this is just regular occurrences that maybe you don't see in Baltimore every day. But going back to your question about the bedroom and the revenue, and my vision was always to scale. I think that, Core. Like, I've been pretty open about where I wanted the company to go years ago, and it's never a straight line. It's never A to B. It's like A to S to E to Q to Z, and then like back to A, you know what I mean? And it's just never going to be the way you envisioned it. But no matter what, I'm super grateful for where I'm at right now. And I think both of you guys know, You've been to LA, you've seen the shop. Like, I work, 16 hours a day, every day.
I wanted to say something
Monday
about
through Sunday.
I wanted to say something about that actually, because a lot of people see because you're kind of everywhere in the content, right? Multiple platforms. Just seen you at the ESPYs. You're at a couple of different places, but a lot of people will, and they'll never see it though, right? And a lot of people don't want to see it, but they'll never see how much you actually grind. But can you talk a little bit, not about the grind, but the actual struggles that you went through, rather than, because one of the greatest pieces of content you guys do is showing when you guys open a box and you lose. So what is something that really was a struggle for you? Because I don't think you ever wanted to give up. I think you're strong-minded. But what was one that was real, like, tough, or just talk a little bit about the struggle of it?
Well, I think that in the beginning, as a breaker, I came into a space that in my mind everybody thinks that I came in really early, but I felt like I was kind of late to the party in breaking. Pole wax was already established. I was looking up to Pole Kings, which, when I tell people about Pole Kings, some people don't even know what that company is, which is surprising to me because they're who I looked up to. Yeah. So they were one of the top accounts on Instagram, and the way breaking, in my mind, the way I kind of watched it really happen was Instagram was first. Like, everybody streamed on Instagram, and I think that got a little saturated. And then Whatnot came along, and they were at the shows years ago. When all of us,
that's when they had the block
together,
W.
really kind of.
That's what I call them, the block W.
Yeah,
Whatnot.
yeah. And Whatnot was grinding, though. They were at the shows, basically recruiting, essentially, trying to get people on their platform. And the way I viewed Whatnot at the time was just, I don't understand why I would want to build on their platform when I could build my own platform, right? So, those guys were always good to me, and I have nothing bad to say about them. It was just, I didn't want to go onto that platform because I felt like I'd be building Whatnot as opposed to Dappz Sports. And because of that, I think that's led to more success for us and more.
Did he literally just flip?
Because that could have been.
You just asked him how he struggled, and he just told you like how he triumphed.
Well, no, because that could have been a bad decision. It could have been a bad decision for him to not hop on.
Well, yeah. I think I was trying to start with, like, I struggled on Instagram at first, right? Like, you're entering a very saturated market, right? And I'm competing with Bullpen LA, and I'm competing with Leighton, and I'm competing with Pole Wax, and that was tough at first. And also, YouTube has definitely been a struggle for me, so to speak, because I started on. By the way, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but like, that's where Dappz Sports really started, was YouTube. I was making videos explaining to the hobby, hey, I'm buying these cards, and this is what I made or lost on, any particular card. Breaking came second. So for Dappz Sports, we've always thought that we're a media company, right? And it's difficult for some people outwardly to understand that. They think of us as a breaking company, but we started producing videos before we started breaking. And then as our YouTube grew, I had less time to create videos. So I used to do this dedicated what I'm buying video every single Friday or every single Thursday, and then I would do a free box Friday.
Yep, I remember
the following day.
So you'd watch on
So you'd watch on Thursday, and I'd give away a box on Friday, and then it became almost like this hindrance, this shadow that was like casted over me, like, oh man. And I was doing it and then I was producing this video last minute. So I'm trying to stream every night at 5 p.m., but then I also have to get packages out every single day. And then this is like when me and Sis are grinding ourselves, and I don't have time to write out this video, shoot it, edit it. Like, I didn't have a Kenneth back then, you know? It was just me. And then it became a burden to produce this video. And then my YouTube views were kind of falling off because for the amount of people who were subscribed to me versus the amount of views I was getting, like, it was pretty impressive. To get 1,000 views and only have a couple thousand people subscribed to you, like, that's not bad. Those numbers are not bad. And at the time, too, I looked up to Jeff Wilson, sports card investor on YouTube, because he was 100% the biggest at the time, and I would argue that he still is the biggest on YouTube in the sports card space. So, watching him online, you try to mimic some of the stuff that he's doing, but also, how do I do it in my own way, right? So then I start to do that. Then breaking comes along. Now I can't produce YouTube videos as much as I'd like. And then in this past year, I actually started putting up TikToks that we're producing on YouTube Shorts also. I blow up on YouTube this year. We went from like 8,000 subscribers to over 40 in like 60 days.
I do
just
want to touch
posting
on that. For people, and look, you do or you don't, maybe you didn't, or you hire somebody, and you can look at certain people's accounts, right? You can buy subscribers, you can buy followers, you can buy, now like your Instagram obviously is almost 500,000. Now, like I look at somebody like Jeff, who's huge on YouTube and like came into Instagram kind of late, right? And I saw his, and me and Tim, like, we know what it is to grind up, get all the followers you can and keep going and keep going and keep going, and like how like all of a sudden you can feel like you're shadow banned because you're not getting any growth. And honestly, like, I've been approached about buying followers. To me, it didn't make sense because, like, me and Tim, we have unique products that our followers need to buy the product. Like, it doesn't, like, but when a breaker, I could totally understand because, right, they're fighting against the other breaker who's got a Dappz Chrome box. You got the same Dappz Chrome box. Like, more followers just gets you up the algorithm chain, right? Now, like, so you said it was a video that took you from, or a short, and that also happens, right? But what do you think made the people subscribe to that? You know what I mean? Because the subscribe to me is like that extra click.
So I'm not, by the way, we have a team of people now. So in the past,
right,
I'm doing all the social media myself, right? YouTube, TikTok. But once you realize how many different pieces of content there can be, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Snapchat, and there's now there you have the Kicks and these Twitch and all these other platforms that are emerging as well. So Threads, right? So how much time and resources do you have to put into these things? And if you don't slowly start to hire people
100%.
and put a team together, you can't be on all the platforms. You have to focus on one or two, right? So this YouTube rise that we had, I'm not even posting on YouTube, right? Our social media hires, our content producers or our social media manager is going to be the one posting these TikToks that we've produced that have already proven to do really well in terms of viewership and engagement. Now we're reposting those on YouTube Shorts, and we're basically just putting it on a schedule, right? So because we've created 100 to 200 original pieces of content on TikTok over the last couple of years, we can kind of just start posting on YouTube. Mm-hmm. Now, what we experience, though, is an insane amount of views, right? And I think, Corey, I could be wrong about this, but I think that subscribe button on a short is
there,
like
yeah.
right
And that
there.
makes sense.
So as it's going viral, like, it's a thumb click, right? If you like the content. So I imagine that helped us. And then they kind of fell off a cliff, though. So we went from 8K to 44K within 60 days. And like, this is all, I think there's software that you could use on YouTube to like track everything I'm saying, by the way. So you can track the when we start posting YouTube Shorts, because there's some card man on YouTube or whatever his name is who like,
yeah, and that's kind of what I'm like,
growth,
and again, I don't even think there's no credence to be, there's no reason you have to answer whatever. It's just, you've always been out front. Like, I've been at your shop when you have this team of like kind of nerdy guys, but they come in and they pull up the videos and they're showing charts and graphs and talking about, well, if we schedule it this time and we do this time and here's the plan, like, we're going to grow 4% on this week, and then we plan to we see a rise and spike here, and like, so it's very data, like, analytical. So I just want people to understand that, not that you have to respond to that, but like, why not, right?
No, well, I mean, there's nothing really to respond to, so to speak. I'm just going to tell you what happened, and then go ahead and fact check me. You know what I mean? With the data. And so this is the story, right? So we're posting on YouTube Shorts all of our TikTok content. And by the way, we're still producing new TikTok content. So we're sprinkling that in with already existing content. And then you could go check those views on, we have millions of views on some of these videos. So when you think about a video doing 1 million views, how many followers or subscribers do you get? Now, back in the day when I first started on TikTok, I did a video that did 6 million views. I got 100,000 followers in a week. Like every day, it was 10K. And it didn't stop for like a week, right? Like almost 10,000 followers a day for a week.
Yeah,
it's crazy because you're just like, when it's almost like when is this gonna end? You know what I mean? You're like, this
you're
is
gonna
nuts.
dip out like it's Bitcoin. You're
Right.
just
Like,
when
am I
does this
gonna end
crash?
up in a house
But
with
the
other
thing-
influencers? I mean, I just have so many followers.
So, but the thing about the growth that fast is, then the next video you put out, it does 5,000 views, and you're
You
like,
feel like a piece of shit.
I failed.
Yep.
So 10, and then 10,000 or 20,000 views, you don't feel good about it, right? You feel like you failed. So there's good and bad, and you have to have a balance with this. So that was TikTok when I first started, right? So now fast forward to YouTube Shorts, which are relatively new, I guess. I would say they'd only been around for a year or two before we started posting. Now, again, everybody looks at those subscribers and they go, how did Dappz get this many YouTube subscribers so fast, blah, 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 blah. And they look at it like it's a good thing. Now let me give you my perspective on it is, oh, wow, this is great. But then we started to post our long form content again, and now whatever the algorithm is on YouTube, it's like you're either short form or you're long
They
form.
don't care. Yeah.
And it ruined our account, so to speak, for long form, because then everyone's going, how do you only have 200 or 300 views on your long form content and you have 40,000 subscribers? And I'm going,
Right.
I don't know, but when I post shorts, I get 10, 20, 30,000 views on every video, and then some of them go viral. But our long form content is ruined. So from my perspective, I'd rather have less subscribers on YouTube and be
Right,
able to
that
post long
everybody
form
looks
and
at,
short
yeah,
form and
yeah.
reach the hobby. I don't need to have 1 million views. There's probably not 1 million people on YouTube in the hobby, right? So I would have been happier with less subscribers and 8, 10. I think you see like Mojo, Jay from Mojo Sports, in comparison to how many subscribers he has, he does great views. 20, 30, 40% of his subscribers are going to see those videos. And I would much rather prefer that, because I'm trying to service the hobby with content, right? I'm not trying to reach, the masses, so to speak. There's only so many people who are going to buy into a break.
And that's kind of the point, right? Like,
So
and that's where I think some people, the hobby's still so small and so like, and even us doing this podcast and stuff, like, we're not expecting gangbuster. I don't even ever really expect.
I am.
Yeah.
I think that we are the best.
I know we're the
number
number one
on Apple.
podcast, but that's like only because the number 2 is.
We're not though. Dappz is looking at me like, you guys sure?
No,
Like,
Dappz
no,
would
we're
be
actually
like-
not. But if we keep saying,
I thought you were going to say you're the number one podcast in
Yeah.
America. So
the
even
continental
Apple.
the continental USA. We can't count Alaska and Hawaii at that
Yeah.
point. They're too far behind.
Fair,
But so
fair.
that just kind of goes to what I like. What's always intrigued me about the way you run your operation is you're very good at like getting the people in right places to do things you can't do, right? You realized early that you can't do TikToks and this and that and break and everything else. So like putting the people in place and at probably, money out of your pocket, right? Because you're in this for the long game. And so when all this is said and done, what do you want Dappz Sports to be? Like, where do you want it? Where do you see it?
Wait. Before he answers that, because I have a question that's similar, and I think he can wrap all into one, and I don't want him to
Come
have
back,
to
yeah.
double itself. I said to you one time, dude, I was so excited about something, and I was like, yo, Dappz, this is happening for me. And I was like, dude, isn't it so? I said something along the lines where your response was, dude, I planned this. And I know certain things happen and blah, blah, blah. But getting into where you want it to be, you could not have planned for the ESPYs. You couldn't have planned for that party.
Yeah, we got to talk about
the
that
party
too.
route. Like, how could you really plan for that? So, like, wrap that all into where you want to be to also where you already knew you were going and stuff like that. Because I'm amazed that when you said to me, that gave me a lot of motivation, actually, when you said just flat out, Tim, I planned it. Because I didn't plan none of this, and I'm surprised every day. So I admire your, like, just straightforwardness. But just talk a little bit about that.
Well, that's back to what I said in the beginning of this interview is, you think the line goes from A to B, and it just doesn't, right? Like, so when I say I plan this, my plan is to get through the whole alphabet It's just, it doesn't go in order. It goes out of order, and things happen, and you adjust. And, you know, I'm thinking at the time when we first start breaking, we were talking about Instagram. Like, I want to be the biggest on Instagram. But then guess what? You know, Bo and Sam are like, yo, you should try going live on TikTok. And as soon as we went live on TikTok, I realized, oh man, there's way more traffic on here, right? We already have a bigger following. Why do I care about, you know, competing on Instagram when there's no competition on TikTok? Backyard was the only other company. And by the way, when I started streaming on TikTok, I didn't even know what Backyard was until a couple months later in my stream. Some of their fans are coming in and going, BYB, Backyard Breaks. And Backyard is the, you know, whatever their little sayings were, they were saying it, and I didn't even understand what those meant. So that's when I kind of got put onto Backyard. I'm like, oh, okay, so I guess it's us and them on here. Mm-hmm. But either way, even if it was just Backyard and Dappz Sports on TikTok, that's way easier than Pole Kings and Bullpen and Leighton and every single, and you know, Phil Hughes' company was breaking
and Phil's cards and
there's so many big guys
and Phil
there's so many big guys that I never heard of. I never heard of Monster Breaks until the Topps conference, and they're huge in
and there's Tim, there's so many of those companies that are huge.
Yeah,
and you never heard of them, but they're huge, and they're doing an insane amount of revenue, and they're regional or they're national or whatever they are, and you know, you tip your hat to all of them. But when you go back to, you know, me saying I plan this 100%, this is the vision the whole time, right? And my vision the whole time was Dappz Sports, like I said in the beginning too, is a media company, right? And what I mean by that is we produce content, right? I want to entertain and educate people in the hobby, but the reason I did not name the company Dappz Sports Cards or Dappz Sports Breaks was because I felt like that limited me to I'm only doing sports cards and I'm only in the hobby. And my vision the whole time was, yes, we will be predominantly sports cards driven in the beginning of this, but if I want to break into fantasy sports, if I want to do Dappz Sports fantasy football streams and talk about that on a podcast or just create content in general, I don't want to be limited to just sports cards, right? So that's where Dappz Sports came, and that's where Dappz Sports will grow into. And gambling content, right? Mm-hmm. I think there's an incredible amount of space to take. Like when you think about companies that produce gambling content, I would say it's Barstool and Bleacher Report.
And McAfee.
Yeah, that people actually care about. Yeah, I've seen like random stuff, but I watched them once type thing.
So can Dappz Sports start producing gambling content and take 10 or 20% of the market share of content? I think so. I think we could take a huge space, and only because the bigger companies don't focus on that. Like ESPN isn't going to go after like gambling content, you know? And maybe they do in a smaller way, but ESPN is focused on sports content in general, right? So I don't want to compete with ESPN. It's the same way I spoke about being on Instagram and there's so many people in the game, where TikTok was just me and one other player. That's how I approach content, is how do I start creating content in these little niches, whether it's gambling or fantasy, where there's just a little bit less competition, and then I can kind of, you know, build the brand in that space, and then more people are aware of us. To that point, that's interesting too, because what I think we all have benefited from is the hobby being kind of in the boom, in the market, you know, the start of the boom, and really sticking with it, but always having a plan. Again, mine's the same as yours. Tim's maybe a little different. We want to get A to Z. We don't know how. Like, go back, forth, right, left. You know, get thrown.
I feel like that was a dig at me. That's cool.
You literally said before you didn't have a plan, and you're surprised every day.
Oh, I still don't know.
Exactly right. But do you ever go, because I think we're all benefiting from like kind of linking up early and all kind of running off each other in ways of like, yes, we're not here to like go buy a box from Target and flip it, or you know, make a quick buck. We're reinvesting everything we do back into it, time being the most, right? But it puts you at a party where Shaq is standing on one side, Travis Scott and Jay-Z. Like, that's insane. And it's because like people wonder how we get connected to these like top. They're looking for the people to grow with. Like this is still so new. So anybody out there like still trying grinding, like go to all these events, go talk to people, talk to Dappz, talk to Tim, talk to me. Like there's
Well, I hope there's new businesses next year too.
there's
I know
still so much opportunity.
Some go like, yeah, I'm hoping there's more businesses next year. You know, we've talked about for years grading. There's even more and more shows. Yeah, it's wild out there, and I think there's plenty of still room for growth, especially growth in yourself, Dappz. Because I think you're right. I think that inherently you've built a community with people that trust you, right? So if you were to get into something, and I know you do everything from a good place, right? So if you were to get into the betting, right, I think you have an entire community built of
It's
people
tough
that trust you.
because if you
And I
give
think that's
them
a
the
good
wrong,
idea and
if
where
you
you're
give
going.
them the wrong pick, dude, you're gonna have people knocking at your door.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's more about, the same way we all love sports. It's easy for us to be fans of, football, basketball, baseball, and then that was easy to become a breaker, right? Because I've got this base of knowledge while I'm ripping cards open, right? And then being an expert in product knowledge is number 2. And then when it comes to gambling content, like it would be the best way for me to put resources into another, genre of content because I already love gambling. You know what I mean? I've already gambled since I was, 21, right? Yeah, creating gambling content becomes not to say easy, but when you are passionate about something or you have a hobby, it's easier to create content when it's that, right? Like if somebody called me up and said, "Hey, Dappz, I need help with this new company I'm starting. We're creating this makeup line." Like I got to call 3 or 4 different people who are experts in makeup to figure out how to create content, right? I can't do that myself. But with gambling content, I'm pulling from memory, I'm pulling from experience, I'm pulling from all the content I already consume. So it's just a way bigger base to start with in terms of creating content.
Real quick, a couple of things, something fun. Is the dude named Billy? Because your guys are wild, your TikTok guys. Sam and Vo.
Yeah, so Sam is Vor on TikTok, so that's where you probably made up Vo. Bomeo is Bo. Sam is Vor.
And Vo.
So they're gonna love this. They're gonna love this that it's Sam and Vo.
Yeah. Oh wait, wait. Sam is. Wait.
You both said the same
Belimo.
So...
I can't wait to tell them this. I cannot wait to send them a link to
I thought one was
this.
Belimo. Who's the newer kid? Is it Billy? What's his name? Little white dude. I don't.
G-Bills is probably who you're asking about.
So I believe I saw his content. And look, your guys are wild, right? I'm not even talking about your content. Some of the stuff, wild stuff. But where did you guys link up with him? Because I believe I saw him before he was linked up with you guys. I think he was blown up. Does he live near you guys, or how'd you link up with him?
G-Bills was planning on moving to California. So G-Bills ended up moving to Cali, and then as soon as he did, we were like, yeah, you want to join the team, so to speak. So, it's I advise anybody who's trying to create content, you obviously need people to rely on. And if you, are making slab displays or you're making, molds for, PSA slabs, like that's what you do every day. So to also create content, now you are doing a second job. So you do have to think about, am I an expert in creating content? And if the answer is no, there's only 2 paths. One is which you got to become an expert, right? Or you have to hire an expert. So, with Bo and Sam and G-Bills, they are experts. They're the top 1% of TikTokers in the world, right?
And let's be honest, like hand up, you put up with a lot of bullshit with those guys. Like they're like little rascals, just always doing. And I know there's like a lot of it's the video content, like where they come up and they're like, that's actually them. Like they're getting into shit, they're breaking stuff, they're like, that's them. So imagine, yes, some of it is like video content, like, hey Dappz, can I rip this $100 box? And you're like, no, and they're like, yeah, and they rip it anyway. Like that, I've seen it firsthand where it's all happening like in real life, and it's a good with the bad. I assume there's got to be some
100%.
points where you're like,
I mean,
Oh my God, what is-
I don't
like,
think
what is
anybody.
happening?
I think if you regularly work with creatives, content creators, actors, actresses, like any of those, artists, so to speak.
yeah, but these guys. That's what I mean. These guys are like they're really like you guys are tight. Like it's not like you just hired.
But they're
them.
like that
Yeah.
though. But they're really like that.
It's not like you just hired them out of a book. You're like you've been long-term friends with them and kind of like a mentor or a weird like dad, like trying to wrangle them together.
Yeah, and it's a very unique dynamic, but again, it comes down to, I'll give you guys a story. In the past, when I first started creating content with Bo and Sam, I would be like, hey, I want you to shoot this way, XYZ. Can you shoot this? And then they'd kind of be like, what are you talking about, Dappz? We're not shooting that. We're going to shoot this. And then I would get irritated. And then I kept thinking about it. And I'm like, I have to break every night. Like, why am I telling the kids who have 5 million followers each how to create content? And then once that kind of clicked in my head, it's like the light bulb goes off. You go, why do I need control of this? If they ultimately, what I want is Dappz Sports, the brand, to get the most exposure and reach the largest audience on TikTok. And why would I tell them what to do if they could do that by themselves and I don't have to think about it? Now my time is freed up to run my live streams, and I can also have the content. The next thing is, I think that what a lot of these older companies, whether it's hobby shops, whether it's Tops, whether it's Panini, they completely discount content. They completely discount the amount of work, the amount of time, the amount of creative that like to assume, like we said, that a hobby shop is just going to create quality content when you've been a hobby shop owner for 30 years and now you're just a social media expert. Like, that is completely discrediting content. It's completely discrediting what I do for a living, right?
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, so that to the 10x thing, and I'm gonna play this clip. I want to see like what your thoughts, and Tim, yours too, on which I think there's merit to it, but I'll let you guys listen and we'll go from there.
How do we 10x the hobby? Fractionalized casinos aren't going to 10x the hobby. The forward-facing part of this has to be a well-run hobby shop. That caters to kids. Mom will be the key ingredient in us growing the category. And mom doesn't want to walk into a place that's built on gambling. It's simple as that. And they're putting too much stock. As it stands right now, the industry will not 10x. It can't. We need better hobby shops. We need more hobby shops. But we need hobby shops that are built on saying yes to as many questions as humanly possible. Clean, well-lit, organized, great staff, price points, liquidity, all these things that make for a great experience.
Yeah, so Rob from Burbank is, a great guy, know him personally. I completely agree with the stance that I think Tops and Fanatics should, over time, say, hey, if you're going to have a hobby shop, we expect it to be up to a certain standard, right? Like, I have no problem with that. I think Rob's absolutely correct there. In terms of growing the hobby 3, 4, 5x with hobby shops, like
right.
The reason he says that, he has an incredible hobby shop. It's beautiful. He does an incredible job. I would argue he does one of the best jobs in the country, right? But he doesn't understand social media though, right? Because he's an old head, right? Like, he's been in the hobby 30 years, product expert, knows everything there is to know about sports cards, Burbank sports cards, like the staple of what a shop should look like. But when it comes to social media, their presence in the social media world is, I don't know, right? Like, I don't know what, I've seen some of their content, but I really couldn't tell you original content they've produced. A lot of the stuff they put out is showing their actual shop, right? Which is, by the way, an incredible shop. But like what Dappz Sports and Burbank Sports do are completely different, right? Like, his business, he crushes. I think they did like $30 million on eBay last year. Like, they are incredible at what they do. And Dappz Sports is incredible at what we do. But we create content online to reach millions of people. Not hundreds of thousands, not tens of thousands, not thousands, millions of people. We did a video this past month that did 5 million views from the Mint Collective with, Sam hanging on a bar at the Whatnot booth, right? That did 5 million views. So when we're talking about growing the hobby, you have to do millions and millions and millions of views online.
Yeah, I think
Or
his
walking into,
pushback his pushback, and again, I think what he says inherently is not correct, because it's two things. It's going to take
he's not.
It's going
If I
to
can
take
get in here.
online, and it's going to take good card shops. I agree with him on the card shops, but that's not. You could put up as many card shops as you want. It's not going to 10x the hobby, and plus, you don't walk into a card shop even nowadays. It's not a segmented casino. Like, that's online. People who want to go online and buy. I think his reference to the gambling is the spin wheels and there's literally roulette tables and whatnot.
No.
I mean,
all right, no. You can get agree with him all you want. Here's where I'm going to disagree.
I disagreed with him.
No.
This guy
You
doesn't
just
even listen.
stop fluffing. Just stop fluffing. I heard everything. Stop fluffing. The premise of kids are the future is absolutely, no one will argue that the kids are the future of the hobby, 100%. The whole thing about moms don't want to walk into there and there. Listen, you're going to go to the hobby shop that's closest to your house. So if you want to expand from that area and go into other people's areas, create a better hobby shop. But I just disagree with the fact, because it goes into two things. I've been to shops that are dirty, dusty, loved them. Kids aren't looking at that. Moms aren't really caring. Talking about the mom bringing them in and wanting it clean and the betting thing. You're walking into Target, it's the same thing. You're buying a pack off a Target shelf. It's not just, it's anywhere you're buying retail this product. You're essentially gambling. You're paying money for a chance to, a lot of guys are saying, well, you're going to collect a certain player, but most of the guys now, they're collecting to flip a little bit. So the premise of the kids being the future of the hobby is absolutely correct. But the mother not wanting to come in because of betting and spin wheels and all this other stuff, I just don't agree with that.
Well, I think that the one thing that I want to say, and I'm going to continue to say, like, on every podcast I'm on, is no matter what you're doing, if you're ripping sports cards, you have a player in mind who you want to hit, right? Everybody's got one guy who they're like, I'd like to hit this guy at minimum, right? Maybe in this year you go, I want to hit Kenny Pickett or Brock Purdy, right? But let's, for the sake of this argument, just say that you are a huge Brock Purdy fan, and you're like, I want to rip a Prism Hobby box. I'm trying to hit a Brock Purdy rookie auto. You can spend $1,000 on a Prism Hobby box, or whatever the rate is right now, $700, $800, $900, right? Or you could buy the Niners 10 times for $99 in a break. And now you're chasing Brock Purdy across 10 boxes instead of one. And there's no argument there. Like, every single day of the week, if there's a player that I want, there's no way I'm buying a Prism Hobby box when I can buy into a break 10 times and get 10 times the amount.
Or go on eBay and buy the single.
Or you could buy the single. But I'm just saying, if that's what you like to do, is you like to chase a particular player out of a box. Now, listen, there's pros and cons to everything. Some people like the experience of ripping open the box and touching it and feeling it, and that's an experience for them. And continue to do that if that's what you love to do. But I'm talking about, or just collect that particular player to hold them long term at the most strategic price point. It's not even close. Of course it's entering breaks. Like, and it's not, you can't even argue this, because it'd be one thing if you're like, oh, well, a Prism Hobby box, I'd rather just buy one, because if I enter a break, yeah, I'll get it across 2 boxes, but it's just not worth it because I like to rip the box open. We're talking about 7, 8, 9, 10x the amount of cards you could get for the same price if you're chasing one player.
Yeah.
Maybe in a 2020 box, though, with Justin Herbert, now there's a different argument to be made, because you could hit Jalen Hurts, you could hit Justin Herbert, you could hit Joe Burrow, you could hit a number of quarterbacks out of that box. But when it comes down to these off years where you might only be chasing 1 or 2 players, I mean, listen, even buying, if you were to buy the Niners and the Steelers in a break, and they're $100 each, now you're invested $200 into the Steelers and the Niners. You could buy into 5 breaks for $1,000. and have the Steelers and the Niners across 5 Prism Hobby boxes. So you're guaranteed all Brock Purdy and all Kenny Pickett cards across those 5 boxes instead of buying one box.
Right, and the 510. The weird thing about what he's saying there, thinking more about it, like, again, to me, it's not one or the other. The reason Fanatics and Topps, I think his point was that they're putting so many more resources into the live breaking aspect of it, because, again, you're right, everything's online. You're just reaching more people. But I do agree that, like, all the hobby shops that I've worked with are never busy. They're busier than ever. They're having, like, kids' birthday parties, which is super cool. Like, it's kind of the groundswell of it, and so that's already happening, right? And for a guy who, I mean, he's ran a shop for how many years? Like, he saw, this spike, and that's the other thing too. Is people like, oh, we've seen this before in the '90s. No, you didn't. Like this is not the junk wax era. Like, or the junk.
No one has ever seen what's going on.
Because you've never seen the money that's come in. After,
but it's not even that.
And
like,
social media accounts too.
We're talking about the iPhone didn't exist
right.
then. Facebook didn't exist then. Social media didn't exist then. There's all these things that didn't exist. So anybody who's going to say right now, this is like, this other point in time, it's just foolish. The technology that has advanced from 1990 to now is insane. Like, absolutely insane. And you could even argue the technology that has advanced from like 2010 to now is insane. And now, I mean, AI is about to come out, and the VR advances. They're going to be absolutely nuts over the next 5 to 10 years. We'll see how that's a whole nother conversation. But, I mean, it's going to be really cool to watch Fanatics put money into marketing, because they have not done that yet. So when Rob has said, there's no way you're going to get from 3 million to 10 million, my question, and all I would do is ask a question, is if Fanatics has sold 100 million products to a different person last year, 100 million pieces of data they have, 100 million email addresses, 100 million phone numbers, and 3 million people bought a sports card. What happens when they turn on that marketing to all of the emails and all of the phone numbers, and you're seeing sports cards being ripped before a football game the same way Daily Fantasy Sports came out 10 years ago? Of course it can 3x. It can more than 3x. I mean, if they only reach 30% of their people, it would go from 3 million to 30 million.
Right.
And maybe you say, Dappz, there's no way they're going to reach 30% of their people. Okay. What if they reach 10% of their people? Because then it's 10 million. So again, I don't know. And those are all new users, by the way. So again, this doesn't have to happen in a year, right?
Yeah, there's the other aspect of what we were talking about before, the betting. Like, I have thought when FanDuel announced that they were doing some breaking, I'm like, man, that's a smart idea, because if you have already someone that's inclined to gamble, and you say, hey, for an extra $10, you can throw this team break on your bet, and I don't know if it works like that. I doubt it doesn't yet, but I can see Fanatics Bets is going to bring on a whole nother level of people that might just do it for the gambling aspect. They're not really collectors, right? They're just saying, okay, I heard about this. Let me throw $100 at this one time. Oh, I liked it. I actually got a good card. Now I'm addicted. So I think Fanatics is not even, like you said, they haven't even begun to truly market what they want to be.
No, and also talking about DraftKings, like Fanatics is also opening a sports book. So Ruben got out of the Sixers to open up the sports book. So I don't even know where his strategy is in his brain. Dude, they just hired the guys who put Comic-Con on for the last 10 years. So like, who knows what's about to happen? It's super exciting. Fanatics is kind of, trying to test out every space in the hobby, and I think they're going to crush some spots, and they're going to take over, and they're going to be the best. And then I think some other spots, like, they want to get into grading. And when you talk about grading, like, I don't see PSA losing grading for at minimum 10 years. Like, you'd have to build up a grading company for 5 years just to be reputable and to be trustworthy, and then another 5 to reach PSA. I think PSA, like, they submit 95 or 90% of sports cards. Like, you know. So it's going to be interesting to see, but the live events, I'm super excited to see what Fanatics is going to do. You know, marketing, super excited to see what they're going to do. So it's going to get crazy over the next, 24 months, I feel.
Oh, and then the Fanatics events now. So like, I don't know the business. I couldn't tell you, but I mean, Live Nation, the Comic-Cons, whatever money, a dollar amount they bring in, Fanatics can.
Yeah, I want to put my
triple
put my
that.
hat in the ring for a job at Fanatics events. I think I could build out some pretty cool.
I got to jump, guys. This was a blast, and I would love to be on here as often as you want me to be on here.
Dappz, you're the man. Thanks. You
Look at those teeth. You
follow
can't buy
Dappz.
those
Go to
kind of
Dappz.
teeth. Or can you?
Dappz Sports.